Oh, multi-stream. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh. Let's see if anyone's here. Let's see if anyone's here. Oh, of course I gotta do the widgets. Gotta do the widgets. Oh my gosh. We got a lot of important stuff going on. Hopefully some people come. Oh my goodness. Because, this isn't any fun if I'm just doing it on my own, but okay, whatever. I wanted to talk a little bit about the astrology of this hurricane season, which is pretty wild. It's pretty wild. We have Hurricane Milton just blasting through right now. Or it's scheduled to make landfall, I guess, in Florida this evening or early tomorrow morning. So, and there's some wild stuff, because there's a lot of media hype. And I don't want to use the word hype at all because, this is this is a very scary. Just Amber. Tell me why I was about to call you. I don't know, Amber, but I'm really busy all the time. Every time you've tried to call me, I've been extremely busy. Or I've been with my girlfriend. Or I've been with another couple, Anyway, hopefully we get some people from, excuse me, from Twitch on here. See, I'm just figuring all this stuff out, Anyway, I said hype, but I don't want to use the word hype. I wish I could think of another word. It's just Jupiter's now retrograde as of today. And Jupiter right now, we should pull up the chart of the United States. Why don't we do that? Why don't we do that? Let's pull up the chart of the United States. And then we'll do live chart readings bit by bit. I'm just trying to get up this viewer count somehow. Viewer count. Alani Star says it's insane. Yeah, it is insane. Let me just double check that I'm actually on Twitch. Am I on Twitch? On Twitch. Yes. Okay, cool. Am I on Twitch? On Twitch. Yes. Okay, cool. Let me turn this down. Okay. So I'm going to bring up the chart of the United States. I should have already had it up, I should have already had it up. Where is my United States chart? Okay. View by wheel. United States of America. And then today. Because I want to show you this. I want to show you this because once again, I don't want to say hype at all, but I was looking over a lot of past hurricanes, and most of the big dangerous ones did not happen under Jupiter retrograde. Jupiter went retrograde last hurricane season in September, and there were still several big storms, but they completely decreased, well, not completely, but they greatly decreased in strength, yes, as they we're making landfall. So let me pull this chart up. My bi-wheel. My bi-wheel. Where are you, homie? There you go. There's the bi-wheel. God. So anyway, and if you want live chart readings, if you want a chart reading, please put your information in the chat. Please put your information in the chat. I'm so stressed about money right now. I need to start doing adult content again. But anyway, you see, Jupiter just went retrograde, yes? And Jupiter is exactly conjunct the United States natal Mars. Now that's kind of scary because Mars rules the United States 12th house, right? And the United States 5th house of children. And you see the 12th house is what? Tragedies, yes, oftentimes. And if you look here, see Saturn, Saturn. Saturn has been sort of forming a loose square on and off to Jupiter. You see? And Saturn rules what? Death by water, tragedies by water. So once again, that's sort of interesting with this. But I think the Jupiter retrograde will mitigate some of that. Now look at Jupiter here trying Mercury. To me, that's like hype a little bit, you know? That's a little bit of hype. That's a lot of inflated speech, right? Now, Mars is also square Mercury, right? And once again, so we see inflated and dangerous and potentially violent news, you see? The Sibonic family, hello, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. Please like the stream. Please like the stream, subscribe to my channel. I'm letting everyone know that I'm live really quick. I'm live now on let me say, just info below. Okay. Anyway. So I'm really hoping, I don't want to create a fucking event, yo. Ugh. So stupid the way Facebook does shit like that. So anyway. Hi, sweetheart. How are you? How are you? So right now we're talking a little bit about the astrology during hurricane season. And what's coming up right now, especially with Jupiter retrograde. Plus, y'all should go to my channel and watch my Jupiter retrograde video because I do horoscopes in there. And once again, if you want a chart reading, put your information in the chat, please. And we'll give you a wonderful live chart reading. So anyway, this is scary stuff on the one hand because Jupiter, right? Now it's retrograde. Now, and one of the key words I think of for Jupiter retrograde is deflate or deflation. I always talk about Jupiter retrograde, meaning we're tightening our belts. And I'm scared of this Jupiter retrograde because it's messing up my money situation. No Go Miss Moon Dancer. I already watched it. Good, yes. Sibonic family, are you okay? Saw your Facebook post. I hope you're doing fine. Which post is that? There was one night where, you know, I had a wonderful evening with this wonderful, very attractive couple. Yeah. They had like this custom made bed, you know, with like bars over it and stuff. But it was so high up. It was higher up than a fucking pickup truck. I should have fell out of that shit at one point. But anyway, they also gave me some psychedelic chocolates. And so once I left there, I was still, you know, and I ended up having sort of a 4-hour existential nightmare. And yeah, usually I have wonderful trips, but that one wasn't very good. I haven't done it in like years, so years. I have Jupiter retrograde in my natal chart. I do too. I have Jupiter retrograde in my natal chart as well. Now, what does that mean for us? Well, think about what Jupiter typically is, right? Jupiter is philosophy, religion, wisdom, luck, abundance, all these things. Now, what happens with Jupiter retrograde in our charts? Oftentimes, it delays the good things that Jupiter might do from the houses that it rules. For example, Jupiter rules my second house because I'm Aquarius rising. Oh, excuse me. And money stuff didn't really get better for me until recently, but now it's not good. So, and what we have to understand too is Saturn will be making this square on and off to Jupiter, right? Until like May of next year. So this is going to be rough. Jupiter, as you notice, is the first house ruler of the United States. Therefore, Jupiter represents, right, the body, the personality, right, the sort of the destiny of the United States in a way. You see? And therefore, Jupiter ruling the fourth and first house, yes, there's some weird stuff. Because Saturn, as I said before, is death or tragedies by water. Yes. And then Saturn making this square to the first house ruler and the fourth house ruler of the United States, on the one hand, indicates death, injury, destruction here. And then the fourth house is the home. So destruction in the homeland, right? The home and the homeland. Yeah. How come I don't have any fucking chatters from Twitch? Like, I need chatters from Twitch at some point. Please follow me on Twitch. I'm Saturn Girl 777. If you go to Twitch. I want to get a younger audience. I love you all, but I also want to get a younger audience. Anyway, we'll get to your charts in just a second. I just want us all to be aware, you see, of the likely scenarios coming up, right? And Saturn is retrograde right now as well, and doesn't go. I think people will wander in. Well, thank you, Rory. My little brother Rory's here moderating. Thank you. Anyway, yes, not just deaths by water, but the fourth house of homeland is destruction, right? Destruction of homes, destruction of property. Yeah. So, you see, that's a difficult thing we're facing too. Now, during Hurricane Katrina, you see this north node here of the United States in Leo at 6 degrees. Saturn was exactly on top of that, or within a degree or so, during Hurricane Katrina. That was like a really shitty destiny thing that happened, you see? And the North Node amplifies things. So you see, Hurricane Katrina was amplified in many ways, right? The Saturnian nature of it, the destruction by water, the deaths by water. It's a lot of, it's very difficult. And then look, Saturn is also square the United States rising sign degree. Yes? So we have, no pun intended, a perfect storm. Now, as I was saying earlier, Jupiter going retrograde could mitigate the danger, right, that Hurricane Milton poses. We could see a decrease in sort of the destruction we were expecting. I'm hoping that's what it is because, Jupiter retrograde, as I said, contracts, constricts, right? And that just started today. And the storm is sort of already weakening, Watch out, George Clooney. Yeah. Anyway. So let's hope, because the storm has already started to shift south. So Tampa Bay looks like it's going to get a little bit less destruction than expected, you see. So anyway, we'll get to your charts and we'll sort of focus, because someone just asked me for synastry, but I'm still going to sort of focus on Jupiter and what Saturn and Jupiter are doing in charts, because this square is very wild, right? And then Mercury square Mars is sort of blowing up some hype and everything. So anyway, let's get to your chart readings. Let's get to your chart readings. Let's do synastry. So we have Noko. Do I have Noko's chart? Let me do that. Anyway, I'm doing fine. I'm just really stressed about money. That's the thing. And I have Saturn going through my second house right now. And Jupiter rules my second house and going retrograde. It's just like, holy fuck. Holy fuck. Anyone else Aquarius rising. No go, Miss Moon Dancer. No go, Miss Moon Dancer. 42087. 420, yo. 420, yo. So, 4:07 a.m. Cincinnati. I got so many followers from Ohio. It's really interesting. So there's yours. And let's go to your partner. Partner. Keep safe, y'all. We have flood here in BIH. Already 21 dead. Where's BIH? I'm sorry. What's BIH? I escaped. Well, yeah. I mean, Ohio's pretty. There's my daughter and I guess her whole generation say Ohio is a slur. You know, Ohio-ness is what they say. Ohio-ness. 8/21/72. It's a good little age difference. Not too much. Not too much. 4:36 a.m. Oak Harbor, Washington. Okay. So let's look at, first, let's turn this United States stuff off. And then we'll go to your chart, because when we look at sinister, oh, Bosnia Herzegovina. Yeah, I gotcha. We have a flood here in Bosnia Herzegovina. Yeah. You never want to be Ohio. So anyway, we need people here fucking watching, yo. We need people to come. I need to get like more viewers on Twitch in order to like, because I need to diversify. I need to diversify and I need to make more money. I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound like a whatever. And please, I do prioritize donations and I do prioritize members of my channel. For members of my channel, we do astrology classes. You see? We do astrology classes. In our next one, I believe we're talking about the first house. I think we're going through the houses sequentially, or at least a few of them at a time. Yeah, a few houses at a time. So here, let's look at your 7th house ruler. That's the sun. And what's the sun doing? The sun is exalted in Aries. That's pretty cool. So typically I would read that as you have had some, you get lucky in relationships perhaps. You get good relationships. And we have G4 to G5 geosunstorm tomorrow. We're expecting to see the northern lights again in this part of the world. Also, it is visible in most parts of the US. I have to follow up on that. I know that there's going to be a super bright comet. I think was that yesterday? Or maybe it's today. But you see, your 7th house ruler being exalted is pretty good, right? So you probably do get married or have been married, you see. But then you want to look at what's aspecting your 7th house ruler. Is there anything, really wide square from the moon, I guess? Uranus is trine your sun. So once again, unexpected type things. Yeah. Unexpected relationships, people coming out of left field. Less so the, meeting people and courting and everything like that, you see. So anyway, what else do I notice? Oh, you're Aquarius rising like me. You're Aquarius rising like me. Even at 29 degrees. Yeah, it's still Aries. 29 degrees. The reason why likely why we have these anaretic degrees or the so-called final malefic degrees of any sign, it's because of this concept called bounds and terms in astrology, which is a level of dignity. And we'll be doing a dignity class, or probably 3 of them, for my members of my channel. So, now bounds or terms, what's that? It's each sign divided up into 5 sections, each ruled by a planet, except the sun and the moon, of course. So each one ruled by one of the other 5 planets, right? And a planet in its own bound or term is amplified and extra lucky, right? A planet in the bound or term of Mars or Saturn, if it's not Mars or Saturn, does make it a bit malefic and weakens it, right? That weakens the planet. So the final degrees of Aries, I have my chart here, are ruled by Saturn. So yeah, it is difficult there. In fact, the final degrees of any sign are ruled by Mars and Saturn, right? That's why they're considered malefic for the most part. People don't know that, typically. So anyway, let's look at your partner's thing. Gosh, your moon in Capricorn in the 12th house makes relationships difficult, though, just probably because of your mental health. And you really, really, really want to watch out for drugs and alcohol. Addiction can be a problem, you see, with that sort of stuff. Or at least like substance issues, feelings of depression, isolation. Yes. And the moon rules your 6th house. So it may be, it may be difficult with your physical health as well, or indicate physical health issues, you see. Anyway. Hello, Shani. How are you? Thank you for being here. Shani kept me company while I was having my existential nightmare. So thank you, Shani. I really, really appreciated it. And I was a bit, off my rocker, a bit crazy, a bit wackadoodle. So let's look at your partner really quick. I'm assuming it's a he, right? I've been working on that for years. I'm 19 years clean. I was an addict when I was in foster care. I'm so sorry, my darling. I'm so sorry. I mean, I come from a family of addicts, and I've struggled with certain things myself. So I definitely, definitely feel for you. And this partner here, this person you're interested in, also has a Capricorn moon. So we'll take a look at how these charts jive in just a second. But his 7th house ruler, once again, assuming it's a he, is Saturn in the 11th house in Gemini. So he would typically meet his partners through friends, right? And maybe is friends with his partners first, even though stuff might be sort of more abrupt for you. Now, what does he have? What does he have aspecting his 7th house ruler? Anything? I don't really look at Uranus or outer planets aspecting this sort of thing. I'd be more concerned with one of the traditional planets aspecting this, you see. And I don't necessarily see any. So he's all alone up there in some respects. But we'd still expect him to meet partners, right? Through groups of like-minded people and sort of stuff like that, So you may have things in common. Now, the other thing, too, is he's a Leo rising with the 1st house ruler, the sun, in the 1st house. And these people typically feel very important. Now, he's got Mercury in the 1st house, too, which can make people very intelligent, right? Mercury in the 1st house usually means that the life direction is guided by this whole communication, writing, speaking sort of stuff, Now, there's probably a lot of confidence here. I just would want to make sure there's not, arrogance or anything like that, But he's probably got issues with money. And probably received an inheritance with that part of fortune in the 8th house. The 8th house of other people's stuff. Okay. He's very intelligent, computer geek, daddy dom type. Yeah, I mean, sun in the 1st house. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Now we're going to look at We're going to look at a bi-wheel with you two. Or no, we'll look at a bi-wheel. We'll look at a bi-wheel. Okay. Where's my bi-wheel here? Oops. No, bi-wheel. 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 There we go. Let's pull this up. There we go. Here's you and your partner. Now, let's see if we see any big conjunctions right off the bat. Do we? Your moons are conjunct, which is sort of wild. Now, your moon is conjunct his north node, which is sort of a big deal, you see, because those sorts of things, they feel like fate, right? When the moon or any one of the so-called personal planets, right? Specifically, I'm talking about the sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, those 5, right? Those usually indicate a big fated kind of important relationship. It's very difficult not to get together. You feel this pull, this destined pull. Now let's go to the synastry grid, because that'll help me just read this a lot quicker. Let's turn off bi-wheel. And let's turn on synastry grid. Let's turn on synastry grid. Okay. Synastry grid. So I tried to get all these like set up ahead of time as much as I could. Okay, let's turn it on. There we go. Wait a second. Why does that look all wackadoodle? Why does that look so wacky? Why does that look so wacky? Does it need to animate? Huh. I guess that'll do. So anyway, no, that won't do. Goodness gracious. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Oops. Nope, that's not it either. Okay. You can see, well, okay. This is so goofy. Okay, there we go. And then, there we go. Okay, now you can see it. There you go. Okay. So as far as the synastry, I always look at bad stuff first, right? I look at 3 main things. I look at Pluto, Saturn, and Mars, and actually 4 things, Uranus too, because those things can be quite difficult. Now, so first of all, we see Pluto square Mercury. That can be rough, right? We see Pluto opposite Venus, and that can be definitely rough. So, you know. Hi, Bexy. Thank you for coming. I know you can't stay long, sweetheart. I love you very much. You are so sweet. And I was just telling Bexy this morning, it's like I spend way too much time with like the dating stuff and the dating websites and, you know, it's just too much time. I'm too fucking busy. I need to start working harder, doing more videos and more live streams. You also have Mars, square Mars. That can be kind of rough. Any bad Saturn stuff? No, not necessarily. Nothing I would call all that bad. But this Pluto stuff can be kind of wild. And so can some of the Mars stuff, you see? So Pluto square Mercury can be these sort of explosive grind set mindset. Yeah. Girl boss, yo. I gotta be that girl boss, right? Slay. Slay queen. Slay. Not the Christmas sleigh. Anyway, I shouldn't go into that. I was thinking about Halloween. Also, Pluto square the ascendant. You see, this is sort of a life-changing relationship, but it can be quite tumultuous. It can feel like you get, oh yes, please, Bexy, please share on Reddit. And then, you need to help me on Reddit. I should take the rest of the day. I have to go run errands, though. Should take the rest of the day to do that stuff. I also have to start working on, my money situation. Now, Pluto square the ascendant. This stuff can feel like we get smashed through this relationship. I'm gonna need you both to calm down. Yeah. Hello. So that can be difficult. And then Pluto opposite Venus, right? I've had that in several relationships. It's very hard to break up, but it gets very obsessive and possessive and creepy. There's a lot of jealousy there, So that's one thing you have to worry about is jealousy, you see? Jealousy, but I bet the sex is like transcendent. You have Pluto trine Venus here too, which can also get very obsessive and possessive, but it's very hot sex. And it can be like this deep relating, right? This dark romance, right? I think of Morticia and Gomez Addams, right? From the Addams Family and from the Wednesday show. How they're so obsessed with each other and they just sort of, they're always like all over each other, right? That's sort of the Pluto Venus grind set mindset. And please, whoever else is here, you could put your information in the chat and we'll get to your live chart readings. We talked a little bit about hurricane season and how Jupiter retrograde and Saturn are going to affect that, or what they indicate about that, rather. So, we'll bring that up here and there as we look at charts as well. And if no one puts anything in the chat, we'll do that too, because, it's good information. We are still pretty obsessed over 2 years later. Yeah, you see, that's a wonderful sort of thing, isn't it? It's a wonderful sort of thing. Now, the Pluto square Mercury thing, I think Bexy and I have Pluto opposite Mercury. Sometimes it can be, very intense disagreements. I don't think we've had any of those. If we ever did, it would probably be along ideological lines. Although, we're pretty similar in that way. But it can also be a sense of trying to control someone's mind, or one person dominating the other's mind in some way. So, now you've been together for 2 years, so it may not be that big of a problem. But the other thing that jumps right out is his Jupiter square your Venus, which often tells me there's indulgence, right? We egg each other on, like, it's okay, you can have another drink, or it's okay, you can eat all these muffins, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Or cupcakes. So you got to watch out for that. Self-indulgence, you see? And please, otherwise, I can start reading other people's charts that I have on hand, like Shani. Like Shani. Anyone else here? Anyone else here? Anyway. So what about some good stuff that we see, right? There's Jupiter trine the ascendant. You see, that's sort of like being each other's cheerleader. Oh my gosh, you have Jupiter square Venus both ways. So yeah, there's a definite, you have to keep each other in check, right? You sort of have to rein each other in. Otherwise, you'll egg each other on to do self-indulgent or ridiculous things like spend too much money. And if you remember from his chart, he has Mars in the second house, which indicates he tends to spend a lot of money. But also his Jupiter, right, trine your sun, these Jupiter things encourage us to be cheerleaders for each other, you see? To inspire each other, yeah? So there's a lot of cool stuff like that. Now, Venus is square the North Node. Oftentimes we think of that as star-crossed lovers. But you see, right, in this instance, it creates that, once again, a sense of a fated relationship. We have it in our natal charts too, I think. Oh, the money thing or the self-indulgence thing? Yeah, I mean, but see, both of you have Capricorn moons, so it's difficult to share your feelings with each other. But the fact that the moons are conjunct also signals a comfort and an ease in each other's company, right? So that's a very good thing. So overall, this is lovely. And look at this. Venus is also sextile his north node, right? So that's also very cool. This is a deep, loving relationship. And so, I mean, Saturn trine the ascendant, that can be good for marriage, I guess, or at least long-term commitments. Saturn square Venus. In what? In your natal chart? Saturn square Venus. Oops. Do you have Saturn square Venus? Oh, yes, you. Well, yeah, it's a wide square, but yes, you do. And that just makes us very awkward socially, you know? Socially awkward. It can make us very socially awkward. What about him? And please put your information in the chat. And we can look at that. The cat in the hat. No, he doesn't have Jupiter in aspect to Venus. But in your synastry, you do. You have it both ways, right? Where did it go? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Which once again encourages self-indulgence, you see? So anyway, Astromatrix pulled a placement suggesting my death was going to be sudden and or violent. I can't remember that placement now. That app is usually dramatic, Astromatrix, but usually keeps things light. Yeah, I mean, I don't like Astromatrix for some things, like their math was off. It said I was a Capricorn rising, and I'm like, no, you need to take into account all these other things. So anyway, I'm not a fan of Astromatrix. I would take some of that stuff with a grain of salt. What does tell you a little bit about the possibility of violent death and all that is what's called the syzygy. Yes? So let's bring up Shani's chart. Do I have Shani? Do I have Shani? Do I have Shani? Yes, I do. Here we go. Here's Shani. You're welcome, Noko Miss Moon Dancer. You're welcome. So once again, please like the stream, subscribe to my channel, right? Or follow me on Twitch or whatever the fuck it is. And put your information in the chat so that we can do a reading for you. We're looking at Shani really quick. So Shani asked about violent death, right? And one thing that does indicate violent death is what's called the syzygy. Now, the syzygy is the most recent lunation, that is new moon or full moon before your birth. And in ancient astrology, there were 5 most important points, right? Number 1, the ascendant ruler, right? The ruler of your rising sign. Number 2, the sun. Number 3, the moon. Number 4, the part of fortune. And number 5, the syzygy, right? The syzygy. Now for Shani, we can tell, right? The moon was waning here. So the most proximate or the most recent lunation would have been a full moon, right? It would have been a full moon. So let's look at the degree here of the syzygy, right? I'm glad I mentioned it. I've not heard of this before. Still figuring out simulcasting. What, Rory? Please tell me what's going on. What's going on with the simulcasting? Did it stop? Am I still on Twitch? Yes, I'm still on Twitch. What do you mean I'm still figuring? Yes, I am still figuring out simulcasting, but... So anyway, yeah, the syzygy, big deal. So we're going to look at where Shani's syzygy is, right? The degree of the syzygy is very important. So let's just go back hours. Flowers. Say hours. That's Smashing Pumpkins. Flower away. So we see here 0 degrees of Aries. That's your syzygy, right? Your prenatal lunation. So what is that in your chart? What is 0 degrees Aries in your chart? Okay, animate. It's fine just reading. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, please help me, Rory. Help me, Rory, help me, Rory. Help me, Rory, help me, Rory. Okay. So you see Aries where? Where's 1 degree Aries? It's in your 6th house. That can be kind of rough. That can be kind of rough. My daughter has that though. David Bowie had his syzygy in the 6th house as well. And he did pass away sort of younger. I don't want to think about anything ever, you know. I mean, he was in his 60s, I guess, right? 60s or 70s. I mean, he wasn't that old, but it was a very untimely death. So, I mean, every death is, isn't it? Right? Every death is untimely. So your syzygy, see, we started talking about the fucking syzygy, yo. That's cool. I mean, you know, we can look at your syzygies with that. I wouldn't, oh gosh. You see, this was described by Vedius Valens, and this was, you know, it was written about the syzygy and violent deaths in like the 2nd century CE, you see. So, of course, things have gotten a bit better in terms of living conditions, safety, illnesses, medical science. So, you know, it's of course less likely. However, you know, the 6th house is a difficult place to have the syzygy. So I don't want to say anything about the length of your life or the way that you would pass away. But, you know, it's hard to have your syzygy in the 6th house. I have my syzygy right on my IC. The other part of the syzygy is if you have it on an angle, right? So the ascendant, primarily the ascendant or the midheaven, often it indicates prominence, yeah, like fame and all that sort of thing. Now I have it on my IC, right? So, and the people I saw that have it on their IC were also relatively, you know, well known. You know, there was Martin Luther and the 95 Theses, yeah. There was also Marlon Brando who had it, right, the actor. And then Neil Armstrong, I think, had it too. So, but anyway, syzygy, right? So hopefully that, isn't, you know, too bad or anything like that. The other thing that Vedius Valens mentions in terms of how you die is the 8th house from fortune, right? So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? I'll bring up that. We can look at that. What if syzygy is on a luminary or inner planet? I mean, Valens didn't say anything about that necessarily, and I need to do more research on syzygies, like just going through people's charts. But I would venture to say that that's a pretty significant thing, right? That's a pretty significant placement to have the syzygy conjunct one of those luminaries or inner planets, right? It could also represent a certain degree of luck, right? Or good fortune, particularly with the length of life, right? I would probably say it indicates, you know, longer life and all that sort of thing. But I would have to do more research on that. So let me bring up this other thing. This is going to be a little uncomfortable, but where's my web browser? Where's my web browser? Various valence. Syzygy. So here we go. Okay, this is an article written by an astrologer named Tanya Daniels. And I'm going to put it up here on the screen. I'm going to put it up here on the screen. This is sort of, can be scary stuff, you know? Or where's my synastry grid? Okay, properties. Done. Okay. I guess I do have it up on the screen here, but let's transform a little bit here. I just have to move to the left, to the left, to the left, or to the right, to the right. So I want you to take all this shit with a grain of salt, please. Please, please, please. Because, like I said, things are a lot, things are a lot safer now. Shani says, I think I've read some stuff by Tanya Daniels. Yeah, this is really interesting. When I was trying to research syzygies, I didn't find a whole lot. I found 2 different articles. One from good stuff and one bad stuff. So, you see here, she says, Vedius Valens, the 2nd century astrologer, simply means that the 8th place, that means the 8th house away from fortune, shows the cause of death. He then continues and lists the pairs of signs that are in the 8th house relationship, right? Therefore, fortune, the physical body, can be destroyed in the 8th place from itself. Now, I don't know. These are so severe. For example, mine is in Virgo. So where's Virgo here? Virgo, Aries, right? Aries is the 8th place from Virgo, right? And it says here, Mercury, the ruler of Virgo, is destroyed by Mars, right? The ruler of Aries. This is death by attacks of enemies or bandits, right? Burns. Rory says that was a great X-Files episode. Yeah, there was an X-Files episode called Syzygy, and it was pretty good. That was a good one, right? So you see, attacks by enemies, collapsing buildings, blindness, imprisonment, the wrath of noblemen from captivity, falls, animals or high places, crushing of limbs, animal attacks. You see all these not fun things? I could imagine a scenario where, noblemen, I suppose, or politicians or something would take me out. I don't know. Or enemies, right? Bandits, I can imagine that too. So now let's look at Shani. For Shani, it's Cancer. Right? Yeah. For Shani, it's Cancer. The moon is destroyed by Saturn. Death by dampness. Right? That's a Saturn thing. Right? Death by water. Complaints from pain, spleens, vomiting fluids. Death on deep sea rivers. Right? This is all the Saturnian water stuff. Chills, attacks from beasts or crawling things. Illness such as elephantiasis. No, that's silly. Jaundice, lunacy, poisoning, long imprisonment, right? These are things that would be very, extreme. Very extreme. So anyway, I don't want people to get all worked up on that. Oops. But let's look at this other one, right? This other article is quite interesting. Who's this by? What's this person's name? I don't see the person's name. But anyway, you see here. For no small power occurs with the prenatal conjunction, whenever it chances to be upon a pivot, that's right, that's an angle. Especially the horoscopos, which is the rising sign degree, and the midheaven, right, which we know about that. So this indicates big prominence, right? If the sign of the new or full moon or the ruler of the sign happens to be on the ascendant or at the midheaven, the native will be fortunate, right? Will be quite fortunate. So that's so ironic. I'm a thalassophobe. I mean, I'm actually kind of a thalassophobe too, to be honest with you. But that's mostly just because it reminds me of space. You know, there's sort of a similarity between astrophobia and thalassophobia. They're both deep, expansive. Like, I'm a fucking astrologer with astrophobia, you know? And don't worry, let's get to Alani Star. Alani Star, can you tell me if you're still here? Because we'll get to your chart, sweetheart. We'll get to your chart, sweetheart. Alani Star. I just want to know that you're still here. So, so this is relevant for you. I'll start putting your deets in. But just sound off Alani Star and let me know you're here. Yeah, I'm a thalassophobe too. But primarily I'm an astrophobe. But the chances of me going to space are very slim. Anjali, I'm from India. Yay! Thank you. Thank you for coming, sweetheart. This is wonderful. Yeah, too much space to get lost in. You know, between Uranus and Neptune, there's about 1 billion miles of empty space, right? So, Alani, are you still here? We have Alani, and then we have Anjali. So, Anjali, if you want. I didn't know Saturn was so related to water. Yeah, right? And that's a big thing with Saturn. Deaths by water. It's because Saturn was so far away, right? And ruled maritime sort of things. And in the ancient sort of conception, right? At least in the ancient Mesopotamian religion, outer space, that was water, right? That was salt water. That was considered Tiamat, right? I know little English, ma'am. Okay, I'm so sorry, Anjali. Priestess Shakti. Hi, Frankie. It's been a long time since I caught a live. Your hair looks fabulous. Love that color on you. Would love a reading. Yes, I will get to you, Priestess Shakti. First, we're going to Alani. Alani. Alani Star. Let me go back to Alani's information. We have February the 11th. 2/11/2002. Oh my goodness. We have a younger viewer. Usually everyone was born in the fucking 60s. Well, I mean, Shaney's a bit younger too, which I really appreciate. Not that I don't love my Gen X and Boomer fans and followers, but I just want to see young people too. We're in Brooklyn. No! Sleep! Till Brooklyn! Right, Beastie Boys? Brooklyn, Kings County. Right? Yeah. Or is Brooklyn, Delaware, or Kings County? Do you remember, is it Brooklyn, Delaware, or Kings County? I guess I'm going to assume Delaware County, right? Just tell me what, because Solar Fire makes me pick. I guess it doesn't fucking matter. The longitude and latitude's probably pretty similar. And if you tell me I'm wrong, then we'll redo it. So let me turn off Synastry Grid. And here we go. Here's your chart. Alani. See, it's so wild because technically I would say you're almost a new moon baby. You're at the very end of the lunar cycle, which is technically a balsamic moon, right? Or also known as the dark moon. And balsamic basically means dark, right? That's sort of the meaning. And the dark moon, you know, one of my heroes, Demetra George, wrote a whole book about it called Mysteries of the Dark Moon. Let me grab it right here. Well, this is the companion book called Finding Our Way Through the Dark, right? The dark moon is like an old moon, right? It's very sort of it's melancholy. It has very Saturnian, right? Or Capricornian or even Piscean type um indications or significations there, right? But still, what's interesting about it is your most immediate prenatal lunation would have still been a full moon. I guess it probably would have been in Cancer. Excuse me. Well, no, it would have been in Leo because your sun wouldn't have moved that far. Your sun wouldn't have moved that far. So we can look at that, but just to start off, right? I would also call you a new moon, baby. I mean, it's 7 degrees. What is that? 7 degrees away. So there's also a childlike quality about it. But having all this stuff up at the top of your chart is sort of significant, isn't it? You know, it's very significant. Actually, let's look at where your syzygy would be. Let's look and see where that syzygy would be. We're going to go back a few days. Let's see. It would be in Leo. It would be in Leo. And, oops. No, I didn't mean to do days. I meant to do hours. Hours. So it's 8 degrees or so. It's 8 degrees of Leo. So let's see if you have anything interesting at 8 degrees of Leo. Yeah. Single chart. Okay. What do you have at 8 degrees of Leo, if anything? Nothing, right? So, but still, it's relatively close to your IC. So somewhat angular. So that's still sort of a prominent thing. Now, with all the stuff at the top of your chart, I might expect you to have some success anyway. Venus rules your ascendant and is there at the top of your chart, right? So to me, that often indicates a modicum of success. And probably you're a bit attractive, you know? I'm sure you're a bit attractive. Now, your part of fortune's in the first house, too, which usually indicates that you get luck with your health. And we get sort of luck from our own sort of ingenuity and our personality, right? And that's another very auspicious thing to have, especially relatively close to your ascendant, you see? So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Now, Venus conjunct Uranus, that's sort of interesting because we tend to have unconventional relationships, you know? Either, you know, we meet people through illicit affairs, right? It's sort of scandalous. Or you may be bisexual, right? Or a lesbian. You may have gender nonconformity. That's another thing we often see. And we also see kink, right? BDSM and polyamory sometimes. We see unusual type of relationships. I don't know if any of those things are applicable to you, but it's sort of interesting, isn't it? Those are the typical permutations. And then having Mercury so close to your midheaven here in the 9th house, when you have the midheaven in the 9th house, it sort of pulls, right, 9th house significations into the 10th, or vice versa, right? 10th house significations into the 9th. So there's obviously an appreciation of philosophy, spirituality, or politics, right? It could be that you have contact with foreign cultures, right? That is part of what you're known for. Sometimes we see people who deal with languages, right? Teaching languages sometimes, you know. Your 10th house ruler is Saturn. Saturn's in the 2nd house. Now, Saturn's not our kindest planet. However, it's pretty cool that you have your 10th house ruler in the 2nd house. Yes? That's sort of better for money stuff. And then Saturn, I was looking at that chart. I shouldn't look at that right now. That doesn't matter. You know, and your North Node is in the 2nd house. indicating that your personal resources, your finances, your possession, perhaps building up a business or a livelihood of some sort, that becomes a lot more important as you get older, right? When we're younger, sometimes we have to face death early on with the South Node in the 8th house. We also feel like there's a loss or something is taken away. You know, perhaps parents lose a job or something like that when you're growing up, or someone's involved in criminal activity. But the other thing, too, about it is having a sense of people holding things over your head, right? Like you don't have your own stuff. Yeah? So then, as you get older, it's about building your own little empire, you know? So, anyway, now Mars is happy in Aries, but the 12th house kind of sucks. So, you just got to watch out for mental health stuff quite frequently. Mars rules also Scorpio, your 7th house. So you're going to be attracted to partners who either have some mental illness or addiction issues of their own, right? People who might seem sort of out there or out of it, you know, silly and drunk in sort of a way. I don't know if I could say that word. I guess I can. But anyway, now in terms of timing, right? Saturn's going through your 11th house. Yeah. And Jupiter's going through your second. And with all this square stuff going on, right? So you could find yourself being more morose or melancholy, you know, until summer of next year. You could have seen strained relationships with friends or like-minded people. It might feel like you don't get any support or like you're lacking in support. Like you're sort of left alone to figure stuff out, right? That's what Saturn in the 11th house can do, right? And then Jupiter in the 2nd house is usually sort of good for money and all that sort of thing. And for you, Jupiter rules your 11th house, of course, right? But then also your 8th house. So you see how much money stuff is being emphasized right here. You know, Jupiter going retrograde for you could indicate having to face, you know, either debt issues or something to do with insurance, right? The 8th house also has insurance. So anyway, Venus is going through your 7th house. So I hope you're having some harmonious relations with your partner. And if you don't have a partner, perhaps at least you're getting out and trying to meet people, you know? So anyway, let's move on to someone else. Or, I mean, really quickly, we could say something. Your dad may have been prominent or successful in some way, I think. Or well respected, an authority figure perhaps, or well liked in the community. And then, of course, with your Mercury in the 9th house too, sweetheart, you've always been interested in spiritual stuff, I'm sure. I'm sure you have. I'm sure you have. Now let's go to... Who was next? Anjali. We have Anjali. Oh, name Manisha. Okay. Okay, let's see. I'm very heavily into politics. I mean, yeah, me too. And I have a 9th house stellium. Ma'am, lesson please. Okay. Manisha Farabad. 8:45 a.m. Okay. Okay. Manisha. March the 31st, 2007. Oh, wonderful. March the 21st, 2007. Faridabad. What time? 8:45. 8:45. And yes, I'm a ma'am. M-A-M. I'm a madam. I'm a miss. I'm a miss. I'm also a mess. Farida, India. Okay, cool. That came up. So let's see what we have going on here. So Saturn in the fourth house. I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, Ilani, thank you. This is really enlightening and accurate. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you so much. So anyway, Manisha, Taurus rising, moon in the fifth house. Yeah. The thing that pops out to me, and Venus rules your ascendant and is in the first house. Once again, you're probably considered a very, slowly, please. Okay, I will try my best for you, sweetheart, okay? Venus rules your first house and is in your first house, which is very auspicious. That's very lucky, you see. It probably means you're attractive. I'm sure you are quite attractive. Now, what first pops out are issues. I'm trying to go as slowly as possible, Manisha. I'm so sorry. I'm trying to go as slow as possible. But what immediately pops out about your chart is Saturn in the fourth house. Yes? Now, you're from India, and so people in India typically use the sidereal zodiac, but I do not. I use the tropical zodiac. So I hope that's okay for you. Now, Saturn in the fourth house indicates a difficult relationship with the father. It can be an abusive or absent father, but the home life it doesn't feel safe or secure growing up. And Saturn is not happy in Leo, and Saturn rules your 10th house. So you struggle with your career, you see? There's some struggle with your career. And Saturn is retrograde. So typically the good stuff in life direction or career happens as you get older. But you see, the sun rules your fourth house of the father and is in the 12th house, right? Of isolation, intoxication, depression. So I would guess that your father was either, no, ma'am, my father is very cute. Oh, good. Well, then it isn't too big of a problem then. Maybe a sidereal reading would be better for you. I just don't do that. But I would have expected your father to have had an alcohol issue or something like that. Did your father have addiction or mental health issues? Because oftentimes that's what that is. And then, of course, with your fifth house moon, I imagine you want children. When I see a fifth house moon, my first thought is, oh goodness, children. And you see moon trine Venus. Moon trine Venus. This is nice, right? This gives someone a very friendly, lovely disposition. Once again, it can make someone quite attractive. You see? No, ma'am. Was that no to children or no to your father has anger issues only? Well, that's good. I'm glad. And I'm just reading things as I see it, of course. It's not always 100% what you'd expect. Now, with the moon in the fifth house, though, I would have expected your mother to be a fun, interesting, perhaps quirky person. Maybe your mother was an artist, or maybe your mother just did creative things, yeah? But I would expect you to, well, you see, your fifth house ruler of children is Mercury in Pisces, where Mercury's not happy. So there's some difficulty. Perhaps you want children and it's difficult. It's very hard to happen, you see. Ma'am, what you said about children's. So you don't want children. Well, that would also make sense with Mercury ruling the fifth house and being unhappy in Pisces. But the other side of that, the moon in the fifth house, often it indicates someone who's very sexual. And with a Virgo moon, my girlfriend has that. They can be very submissive partners. Yeah. The kind of partner you'd want would be someone who's more prominent, who you'd like to be seen with. Now, with your sun in the 12th house, I would also be concerned about your own mental health issues, whether that's depression or whatever. But it could just be that you like to be alone. It could just be that you don't like being around people very much. We tend to isolate ourselves. Can also be senses of, confinement. Yeah. So, my mom is a housewife and funny. Yeah, that sort of makes sense, doesn't it? So anyway, now in terms of timing, see, you're a Taurus rising. You're a Taurus rising. I'm asking, really, I did not understand about children. When I see the moon in the fifth house, I typically think of someone who has children, yeah. But the ruler of your fifth house is Mercury in Pisces. So I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't want children, but I also would be a bit concerned about difficulties around having children. You see, I would be concerned about difficulties having children. Now, Mercury's also conjunct the North Node, which amplifies that sort of thing, of course. Mercury in Pisces oftentimes has a difficult time communicating, right? They have a very potent imagination on the one hand, but on the other hand, it's very difficult for them to communicate what they're thinking. Yeah. They can see pictures in their heads. They just can't describe them very well to you. You know. My brother has a Pisces Mercury, and we always joke about it. It's sort of like, putting Vaseline on a camera or Vaseline on your eyeglasses or something, you see. Now, in terms of timing, Saturn's going through your 11th house. Once again, as I said with the other person, it feels very unsupported, doesn't it? It feels very unsupported. And Jupiter's going through your 2nd house. So there will be sort of a contraction of money or perhaps some debt that you have to deal with coming up. But when Jupiter goes direct again in February, I have a hard time saying that word, February. After Jupiter goes direct again, you're going to see an improvement of your situation, of your financial situation. But Saturn keeps on depressing Jupiter a little bit. So it's very slow in coming, you see. Anyway, who else is here who wants a reading? And ma'am, I am 17 years old. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm glad you're younger, but I hope I didn't say anything offensive in front of a minor, you see. So anyway, does anyone else want a chart reading? Otherwise, I'll go back to talking about Jupiter and hurricanes and the news and elections. I'll go back to talking about all that fun stuff. And please make sure to like the stream and subscribe to my channel. Please, please, please. I need all the help I can get. Please, please, please. I love you. So anyway. Priestess Shakti. Oh! Priestess Shakti. Yes. Thank you for reminding me. Thank you for reminding me. Let's see. November the 4th, 79. Shakedown 1979. Cool kids never have the time on a live wire right up off the street. You and I should meet. June bug skipping like a stone. Priestess Shakti. Om Shakti, Shakti, Shakti. Shakti. Isn't that force or energy of some type? I can't remember. Shakti. Shakti, Shakti. New York. New York. Where did all my viewers go? Where did all my viewers go? Thank you. Thank you, Manisha. Thank you so much. Thank you. I just saw Smashing Pumpkins with my girlfriend. I love them too. They've been one of my favorite bands, or like my favorite band since I was in grade school. Since I was like in 5th grade or something. So anyway, here's Priestess Shakti. Right? Shakedown 1979. Right? And I don't even care to shake these zipper blues. And we don't know just where our bones will rest to dust, I guess. Forgotten and absorbed. Anyway, let's get to your chart. Very happy moon in Taurus. Very happy moon. Mars in the 1st house is fun, isn't it? It can give us like a reddish hue. It can give us frizzy hair or dry skin sometimes. Dry skin, dry hair, right? But a very happy moon, yeah? But the moon rules your 12th house, which can be quite difficult. So, but then being in your 10th house often indicates someone who's a therapist of some sort. Someone who works with other people's pain and suffering or tragedy. Oh, what the voice. Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. You're so sweet. God, my neck is killing me today. I have degenerative disc disease and it hurts like all the time. So anyway, when I see, yes, it's so much fun. Yeah, I mean, I'd expect you to be someone who works with other people's suffering in some way, you know, or working in a prison system or a hospital setting or something like that. But your midheaven goes into the 9th house, which often indicates working at a university or an institution of higher learning of some sort, or being in the legal profession, like, you know, paralegals and stuff like that, or clerks. You see, but the moon, you know, is exalted in Taurus, right? So there's some, even though it's the 12th house ruler, there's something very sort of lucky about it. And not even necessarily lucky, but just, you know, prominent. Yeah? Being successful in your field, whatever that is. Now, with Chiron in the 10th house, life direction. Yay, quantum function. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming, sweetheart. And I'm trying to do 3 live streams a week now. I'm trying to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Because I'm on Twitch now, and I'm trying to build up my Twitch following, you know? So anyway. And the moon opposite Uranus. Ma'am, it's some reddish around your neck. See the... Yeah, I know. Yes. I get reddish, yes. I get a reddish hue also. Because I have Mars trine my ascendant, you see? Mars trine my ascendant and conjunct my sun. Mars square the moon. There's probably a temper here. I imagine you're the kind of person, though, who's also a good leader or can be quite assertive. Mars and Leo in the first house, like that, Trump has that. You know, Donald John Trump, not a very good person. But you see, he's got that riz charisma, right? And he is very dominant and assertive, isn't he? But when you have Mars square the moon like that, it can often mean, getting little injuries and stuff all the time. Can also be a bad temper. It could be that your mother had a bad temper too. Those are all sorts of things that we see with that, right? Um, but then the moon opposite Uranus, it stands out, right? It's hard to fit in, especially when it's quite young. And that could be a painful experience. Am I from America? Yes, I am from America. I am. I'm living in America at the end of the millennia. Right? Well, already the new millennia. That's from Rent, you see. Yes, there's a temper, and yes, she did too. Woo! Now, Mars also rules your fourth house of the father, right? And it's in the first house. So dad maybe was a bit narcissistic or too important or whatever. Or maybe it had a more positive spin where he was a prominent type character, very confident, and perhaps had a big effect on you. But when I see this, usually it's because the father was way more into their own stuff, right? Than you see. I don't know if that's the case, but that's typically what it looks like. Now, the thing about the sun in the fourth house is there's sort of sometimes this obsession with genealogy or one's ancestors, right? Now it could indicate the relationship with the father was a bit better, But and you're just barely a disseminating moon, which is more critical, I'm here with my best friend of 20 years and she just come. Yes, I would be able to do a quick reading for her. Yes, please put the information in the chat and I will get to that. But anyway, Priestess Shakti, you have a similar configuration to me, being a Leo rising. I'm Aquarius. So this last eclipse was in your third house, you see? And then the lunar eclipse was in your eighth house. So there's a money situation that's coming to a close. Money's probably been difficult. Can you only talk to me for like 10 minutes a day? And ma'am, is my English good? I mean, I can. Is my English good? Yeah, I mean, at least what you're writing is relatively good. I mean, I can understand it. So anyway, when the eclipse is in our third house, usually it's a situation that involves our siblings, right? It could also be in your immediate community. It could feel like, right, that you make a little move, right? Or typically, when I had my eclipse in the third house, I had cousins, right? The third house is sisters, brothers, cousins, aunts, uncles, all that sort of thing, you see? Thank you, Quantum. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm getting to you in just a moment. But you see, you could have a reconnection with family, whether it's a sibling or extended family, aunt, uncle, cousin, that sort of thing. These are new beginnings in that sort of house. Now, it could also be an educational endeavor. It could represent making content. It could represent engaging in a new big writing or speaking project. I know for me, it also indicated making lots of videos, you see? And it's the media we consume. Now, Saturn has also been going through your eighth house, as I said, right? And that's where the lunar eclipse was. So there's a difficult money situation, perhaps maybe paying off debt or something like that coming to a close. Now, you may have also had to deal with the death of someone close to you over the past, what's that? I guess since March of last year. So over the past year or so. Little more than a year, right? So that's something to be aware of. And then Jupiter in Gemini, right? Jupiter rules your fifth house and your eighth house, right? Yeah, duh. Right. So, excuse me. And then it's in Gemini. So you see, this could be difficulty with the situation involving your kids, right? Maybe they need to borrow money, or maybe they get really expensive. I mean, you were born in 79, just a little bit older than me, so you may have like teenage kids, if you have children, of course. Jupiter rules your fifth house of children and is in your second house. So there's a difficulty with children anyway. Maybe it had to do with the birthing process, or maybe it just had to do with their own sort of, mental health and security, right? But it looks like there's a money situation happening with children, right? Because that's what Jupiter rules for you. But there's a money situation, hopefully, that's coming to a close. Now, for me, I had the opposite thing, and I'm getting very scared and stressed about money. And I'm trying to, like, stop the bleeding. And that's something that you could, right, also be trying to do. Stop the bleeding. Pay off debt, right? Consolidate yourself. So, yeah, let's get to Quantum's friend. But there's a lot going on here, you see. You probably started a new job in 2022, I imagine, or made a big move or something like that. Or maybe it had to do with starting a business or quitting a job, you see. Big endings, right? Anyway, Venus is going to go into your fifth house, I think towards the end of the month in Sagittarius. It'll be your Venus return. This shit'll be good. Like, please get out and date, go mingle, have some fun, right? If you have a long-term partner, it's time to get down. And ironically, too, because I've been talking about issues with children, you will experience more harmonious relationships with your children, probably throughout November. Probably throughout November, you see. I mean, technically the moon is opposite Venus in your chart, but it's out of sign. So once again, that's socially awkward, especially in relationships. We get very paranoid about losing our partners. It could be a bit of codependency, you see. So anyway, oh, you're about to have your Mars return, Mars in the first house starting in November too. So you see, you're going to be on a good one. You're going to be more assertive, perhaps a bit more. And Mars is going to be going back and forth between your first and 12th house, right? For a while, like till May of next year. Why am I out of focus? There we go. How to share the chart. You just put your information in the chat and I'll put your chart up, my love. And I'll put your chart up, sweetheart. Oh. I need salt water. You're welcome, Priestess Shakti. Now let's go to Quantum's homie. Let's go to Quantum's homie. I'll just call them Quantum's homie. Quantum homie. Okay. 7/31/81. Around my age, just a couple years older. After you turn 40, like, people can be within 5 years of your age, and you're like, oh, you're about my age, Somerville, South Carolina. I sure hope you're not still in South Carolina after all that damage. I mean, that was more North Carolina, I guess. I mean, just we got to look at the hurricane news after this. So here's Quantum's homie. Now, what was your question? She's come home after a breakup. Oh my gosh. I mean, you see, Jupiter's going through your 7th house, right? Now that can be it'll be the same info on the chart she casts. I actually have a chart already. No, I mean, I need to put your chart up here to show what it is. I am near Charleston. We're good. Okay, cool. So, I mean, the first part about the breakup, Jupiter's going through the seventh house. So on the one hand, yeah, I mean, that's really rough, and I'm terribly sorry, but Jupiter going through your seventh house is also, it gives you added luck to meet someone new. Although you probably need to heal from this, I imagine. And Venus is going through your 12th house, which is all about self-care and healing. So you need to drop some bath bombs, and you need to spend some time, like, taking time for yourself and reflecting. All that's very important. That might sound like, okay, whatever. But you see, if you do want to meet someone new, Jupiter going through Gemini is good for that. I would love to hear how recent the breakup was, if I could, because Jupiter went retrograde today, but it's more or less been in a shadow period for the past several weeks. I usually read, I guess they could say 2 weeks. I guess you could say 2 weeks. Let's see here. So, let's see. Excuse me. So, not even 48 hours. So you see, this is all happening with the Jupiter retrograde stuff. So in a way, it's not surprising to me. And Saturn making the square kind of depresses that. So it was 2 years. 2-year relationship. And yeah, and oftentimes, we need some time to heal from something that long. But I really wouldn't be surprised if you met someone between February and June of 2025, right? February and June of 2025. I'll look at something really quick because the zodiacal releasing would be interesting to me. Zodiacal releasing is an ancient astrological technique, and I'm not going to explain it because it's complicated and takes a lot of explanation. It's very involved. 1981. And let's see, the time, 5:35 p.m. Somerville, South Carolina. Now I'm looking at the love situation really quick. So, and your chart, you have a day chart, so Mars is the worst planet. I mean, you've such a rough configuration. Where's Jupiter? Jupiter's in the 11th house though too. So what kind of situation are you in? Sagittarius, a first house sitch. And then Gemini, level 2. Not even 48 hours. So that would be Aquarius for you. Anyway. I was going to see if I saw something interesting, but I'm not going to trip out on that. The big thing is that Jupiter going through your 7th house could indicate that you meet someone new. Ma'am, you know Hindi? I do not know Hindi. I'm sorry. I don't know Hindi. No, the only other language I can sort of speak is Spanish, and I'm not even very good at that, so. Now, Neptune conjunct the ascendant. I see this in people who, they typically have a shaky sense of personality, or they're very adaptable. I call it the shape of water. They sort of take the form of whatever situation they're in, right? They're different around different people, and they sort of mimic some of their stuff, right? There's either a degree of self-deception or manipulation. I know when Neptune crossed my ascendant in like 1999 in high school, that's when I started doing a bunch of drugs and going to raves, So anyway, and you're a new moon baby. So there's a sense of, oh gosh, you're a Leo too. I love that. I love Leos. The sun, you're a very spiritual person too. you're sort of on the, or you've been interested in religion and spirituality, probably from a young age. I have a ninth house moon like you do. Your mother may have been religious too, or your mother may have been interested in this stuff. She probably was also a very confident or demanding person. Your mom, and I imagine your dad was a popular guy. Maybe a bit austere, right? Because Saturn conjunct Jupiter. But I imagine he was a pretty popular guy. Your seventh house ruler is Mercury. Mercury's currently square Mars. That's another break off thing, you see? And with your seventh house ruler in the eighth house, I imagine you're attracted to the bad boys, right? The bad boys or girls, or maybe both. The bad boys and girls, right? The kind that your mom wouldn't want you to date. Yeah. And I also imagine that some of them could have been into shady stuff or criminal things or lying or cheating or stealing, right? When you have the seventh house ruler in the eighth house, though, the kind of partners you need are the kind who can share your trauma with you, right? Who can have difficult conversations with you, who can sort of go to hell and back with you, right? It needs to be a healing relationship. She's a girl's girl, if you know what I mean. Okay, yes. That's wonderful. She's a girl's girl. She's a girl's girl. Bexy, thank you for coming back, sweetheart. Well, and she's got issues spending money. I mean, she probably accumulates debt, right? I don't know if you spend too much or whatever, but that can be a thing, that can be a thing. Mars is going through your eighth house right now, so you've probably also been having some debt or money issues, you see? Now, when Mars goes into your ninth house here in November, you're going to get really riled up about politics. And it's the day before the election, so I imagine you're going to get into some arguments, political arguments. But also, Mars is going to be going back into your eighth house, I believe, in January, after he goes retrograde. Spending too much money on girls. I mean, yeah, you need to chill. I need to chill, too. I have Saturn going through my second house. So this is more of a time to take stock of your resources and make some good decisions, you see. Saturn is exalted in Libra, and Saturn rules your second house. So yeah, you have a tendency to spend too much money and maybe get into debt, but then you luck out, right? Like you always make it through. You always luck out. But yeah, Jupiter going through the seventh house. You could meet someone in February or between February and June of next year, you see. Guys, why are your name appearing green here? Oh, that's because they gave money, right? That's because they donated and tipped me. And I always prioritize donations and tips, you see. So, God, I need some... See, I have regular water and I need salt water for my electrolytes. Because I have a chronic health issue called POTS. So anyway, and you may have chronic health issues too with Chiron in the sixth house. So, now Venus has been going through your 12th house, like I said, so take time for yourself. When Venus goes into your first house here at the end of the month, this is a great time to shine. And if you're, I don't know how much healing and solitude you're going to need, but I would love it if you got out and dated and met some people while Venus was going through your first house, you see? And that'll last, what? To mid-November? The end of this month to mid-November? So, I mean, enjoy that. Usually, see, the other thing breakups can do is they make us want to doll ourselves up or, improve our appearance. Not improve, but, change our appearance a little bit to feel more attractive, to feel sparkly, you know. So this will be nice for you when Venus goes into Sagittarius here. What is the exact date of that? What is the exact date of that? So let's see. October the 17th, right? October 17th, more or less. We're members. You can join if you like. Yay! Yay! Anyway. October 17th, you know? October 17th through November the what? Through like November 11th, right? October 17th through November 11th. Try and use that time to enjoy yourself because you'll feel a bit more pretty. Or at least please make yourself feel more pretty or more attractive, whatever word you prefer, you know? Because when Jupiter goes retrograde, goes direct again in February, that could be a very potent time for you to meet someone. So, now Jupiter rules what? Your fourth house and your first house. So you see, these things are very important for you. Now, Jupiter is not happy in Gemini, so maybe you've been dealing with confidence issues, you see? This could also mean, thanks, hun, you're appreciated. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Anyway, uh, we talked about Jupiter retrograde. We talked about Mars. We talked about Venus. Mercury's gonna Mercury. Goes pretty fast. What's going on right now? Yeah, Mercury's in Libra right now. That's right. So, in fact, Mercury is conjunct your Pluto. So this could be sort of a wild time. It could bring stuff up from the past, you see. It could bring stuff up from the past. She's getting a lot out of this. Good. I really hope so. I really hope so. The big thing that I always say, right? Because Neptune conjunct the ascendant. It's not quite like Saturn in the first house. But as I said, right? We try and like mold ourselves to fit situations. It can be adaptable. Yeah. It can be adaptable. But on the other hand, it can have like codependency issues, right? So it needs to work on that. Although Leo Moon should be, you know, pretty good for that, you know. Pretty good for that. You probably have a lot of confidence too with the Sun conjunct the North Node, right? So you see, we have these interesting things, right? These sort of dichotomies or conflicting things in our charts. Where on the one hand, we might have, you know, some popularity or whatever, because Jupiter's there. But on the other hand, Saturn is in the 11th house too, which can also make us feel left out or bullied as children. Or it's like the last kid picked for dodgeball, you know? So you may have had some popularity, but you didn't feel popular, you know? Or at least people may have liked you. And at this point in your life, you may only want a close circle of friends that you trust. But people would like you, is what I would guess. You see? So, but Saturn ruling your second house and being conjunct Jupiter is more auspicious, you see, for your money situation. So, you always get lucky with money, or you always make it by, I suppose. I wonder if your dad was popular or a popular kind of guy. Or if your dad had a particular influence on you. Or, I mean, everyone's parents do. But, you know, was your dad's influence on you maybe more pronounced? I don't know. Anyway. So, This is really difficult. Like, I know you're probably very upset. Um, but the eclipse that we just had, the solar eclipse, was in your 11th house. What that tells me is you're going to get support, probably from your friends, but also getting out and reconnecting with people, you know, getting out and reconnecting with people. Because I bet 2022 was quite isolating, wasn't it? So, so 2022 may have been around the time you met this person, then, is what it sounds like. And then for the past year or so, the eclipses have been bouncing between your 11th and your 5th house, which often indicates like getting out again, reconnecting with people again, feeling supported, or it can be losing friends too. It can be cutting people off, right? It can also be having children or getting pregnant. That sometimes happens. And also trying to enjoy yourself or have fun again. But the lunar eclipse that we just had was in your 4th house, which often brings like a home situation to a close, right? So I imagine with Saturn going through your 4th house, you've been having a difficult time finding a new place, moving perhaps. Maybe your parents have been sick or you're having issues with your parents, right? And this lunar eclipse makes those sort of come to the forefront, right? You got to bring one of those things to an end. So you might actually find a place pretty soon, right? And you might see a situation with your parents sort of either get better or come to a more difficult close. I'm not sure, and I don't want to say anything either way because those are, it was 2021 when they hooked up. She moved from Florida to Virginia. There is afternoon and here night. Yeah, it is amazing. It is amazing, isn't it? Because it's 12:46 here, you see. So anyway, so stuff with your parents, that's what you have to look out for. Now, you're going to probably have a significant job change that happens, sometime between September of 2025 and 6 months out from that. So October, November, December, January, March. Wait, did I do that right? Did I do that right? October, November, December, January, February, March. So going into March of 2026, you're going to have a big, big, big change in your life direction. I don't know what it looks like, but that eclipse, September 21st of 2025, is going to be in your 10th house. And it's going to be very significant for you, you see. It's going to be very significant for you. It can be a big job change or change in life direction or career or something like that, you see. So just be aware that that could be coming. Now, it's not always easy. It could be, a traumatic type of shift or move or change, you see. But I would be excited for that. But in the interim, yeah, it's sort of difficult with the living situation. She moved from Florida to Virginia. She's staying at home at her parents' house for the time being. She's having high blood pressure issues. Yeah, oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, Venus also rules her 6th house of health. And Venus isn't happy in Scorpio, So you'll see that improve when Venus goes into your 1st house here around October 17th. So I think you're going to see improvement. Now, Mars rules the blood, right? And she's been having her Mars return. So hopefully that also eases up as we get into November. So I'm hoping that's what we see for you. But you see, the parent stuff really makes sense, doesn't it? So hopefully you bring that situation to a close over the next, I don't know, 3 to 6 months, and find your own living situation. You see? So, that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? It makes perfect sense. So there's going to be one more eclipse in Aries next year, I think around April. So that'll also be a time to sort of, learn to have fun again, learn to enjoy yourself again. So anyway, that's very interesting stuff for you, you see? Very interesting stuff. And there's a lot to be excited about too. I mean, it's a year away, but that eclipse next year will be a big deal for you. It'll be a big deal for you. Your money situation, though, is going to be a bit difficult through, I want to say February. I want to say February. Okay. Okay. So like January, let's see, January of 2025. January of 2025. And then you start to see things improve in April of 2026 as far as the money sitch. Yeah, end of April 2025, you should start seeing that money situation improve, right? As Mars goes back into Leo and your ninth house, right? So, and then you get all crazy about your beliefs again and your politics and all that sort of stuff, probably, which is fine. And you're in a time in your life where, like, the spiritual life is probably becoming more important to you. You start asking the bigger questions and all that sort of thing. Maybe it was more about teaching or education as when you were younger. Not sure what you did. Venus rules your 6th house and your 11th house. Do you have anything to do with the medical profession at all? We see people in the medical profession. We see people with the medical profession. We see people with, in the service industry. That's what I was thinking. The service industry, 6th house, Or people who work with animals, too. People who work with animals. So, or injuries and illnesses. It could be medical receptions and all that sort of stuff, too. Receptionists. She said that when her yearly raise hit in April. That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah, the 5th house. It's pleasure and fun. So, she's in the service industry. Yeah, see, that makes perfect sense. And I wonder if she's got chronic health issues. You just mentioned high blood pressure, but Chiron in the 6th house, right? So anyway, but Venus isn't very happy, so she probably struggles with career and life direction stuff. Struggles with career and life direction stuff. Excuse me. Anyway, there's, I'm so sorry about the breakup and everything, but there's a lot of cool stuff going on for you. So try and maintain a little bit of hope and optimism. You see, because Jupiter going through your 7th house is pretty cool. She has major GI issues. Yeah, see, that doesn't surprise me, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Anything aspecting her ascendant? Excuse me. Excuse me. No, I don't really see anything aspecting her ascendant. No. Which is fine. Which is totally fine. So, but Jupiter conjunct Saturn too indicates the health problems also, you see. For GI issues, we typically, I think, expect to see Virgo stuff. And perhaps, Scorpio rules the bowels. Virgo rules like part of the intestines and all that. I guess the stomach. Cancer partly rules the stomach too, and you know, the fun bags, so to speak, you know, the breasts. So, so anyway, you know, I want you to maintain a certain amount of optimism, a certain amount of optimism. Also, when Jupiter goes into Cancer next year, your financial situation is going to improve. You know, that'll be your eighth house. So that's pretty cool. You know, pretty cool. Does anyone else want any readings? Does anyone else want a brief, quick look? A brief, quick look. Excuse me. Ugh, I'm having a caffeine crash. Goodness gracious. So anyway, we're bracing for Hurricane Milton in Florida. I mean, I'm in Colorado, but I mean the country is sort of bracing for it and for what the effects are. Now, I don't want to give anyone false hope, but one of the meanings of Jupiter retrograde is shrinking things, contracting them, right? And deflating them. Now, this storm happened, right, when Jupiter was in its shadow period, but it still picked up, right? It picked up a lot. But really, I mean, even in the past 24 hours, it's been losing a bit of steam, and the course is shifted further south. So I'm really, really, really hoping that Jupiter retrograde sort of mitigates the damage that's going to happen. But once again, Jupiter is the first house ruler of the United States, right? And isn't very happy right now. So it does indicate injuries and loss of life. And Jupiter, right? The United States is a Sagittarius rising, just like Quantum's homie, you know? And the fourth house is the home and the homeland. So I expect that homes will be swept away, that there will be damage, right? Saturn's going through the fourth house. I just keep thinking that Jupiter retrograde is going to bring this down a little bit. Or it's going to make all the other, you know, what's the word? All the fear in the media, right? All the extreme fear in the media might be proven to have been a little bit overhyped. And I don't want to, please don't like fully quote me on that unless it actually happens, you know. I don't want to be associated with, you know, dismissing or downplaying a tragedy, because it still looks like it'll be a tragedy. But hopefully, Jupiter retrograde. I looked at other hurricanes that happened during retrograde, Jupiter retrograde, and a lot of them do tend to weaken a lot of bit, and the damage isn't as significant as people anticipated, right? What was the one I was looking at? There was another one I was looking at. Was it Hurricane Maria? 2017. No, that was a big deal. That was a big deal. Hurricane Maria. No, I was looking at one in 2023. 2023, we had Hurricane Idalia. God, that's such an interesting name. Hurricane Idalia and Hurricane Lee, right? So Hurricane Lee would have happened during Jupiter retrograde, and it also intensified into a Category 5 hurricane, right? I'll share this. I'll share this screen. I'll share this screen. Where the heck did it go? Oops, wrong thing. Wrong thing. So here we go. Now, where is it? Hurricane Lee. So it strengthened to a Category 5. It intensified, right? In 24 hours, right? From 85-mile-per-hour winds to, or it increased, I'm sorry, by 85 miles per hour. Which is sort of interesting because that's what just, you know, happened with Milton. This makes it the fourth fastest rapid intensification on record in the Atlantic. So you see, these rapid intensifications as we approach Jupiter retrograde. Anyway, this one, okay, impact. This is what I was interested in. A hurricane watch and tropical, I'm sorry, I'm looking at United States first. For New England, on September 13th, a storm surge watch was issued for Cape Cod. Although this alert was canceled when the storm veered further to the east, right? During the afternoon, a boat was capsized during a small craft advisory after being hit by a tall wave, right? Requiring first responders. One person was killed on the boat. Rough surf. And on September 15th, a 15-year-old boy drowned due to rough surf, right? So, so total damage in the United States was estimated at $50 million. Now that's rough, right? But it wasn't as bad, it looks like, as it was anticipated. You know, they called off a storm surge watch for this storm. So, I mean, this is one example, but I really hope it's indicative of what we're going to see with Milton. Let's see if there's any Milton news right now. What do we have? Milton to double in size. Goodness. I mean, that doesn't sound like Jupiter retrograde, does it? No. Let's bring this over here. It's a weird picture of Biden, isn't it? Expected to double its wind field by the time it makes landfall. Well, double its wind field. So that's a big deal, of course, but I really hope that Jupiter retrograde means it's going to weaken a bit. Described as the storm of the century, with sustained winds of about 160 miles per hour. Milton turned northeast overnight, though, right? About 300 miles southwest of Tampa. See, I heard it went south. I heard it went south. Potential impacts, Hurricane Milton. Rain resulting in flooding. I mean, how stupid is it that people put fucking concrete over goddamn... Oh, Bexy, you're still here. Yeah, I'll do you. Sorry. I'll do my girlfriend Bexy. Because she's so sweet. She's so sweet, she'll give me diabetes.
Diabetes. You check your blood sugar, you check it often. And call Liberty Medical Supply.
I hate doing that voice, but it's funny. Where's Bexy? Bexy, Bexy. Okay. And let's go back over here. Turn that off. It did go south. Yeah, see, what's this stupid Guardian article? It went south. Milton spinning up tornadoes as hurricane. See, part of me keeps thinking that it's not going to be as bad as everyone's saying, but I don't want to say that. Like, I don't want to be wrong, you know. So anyway, but Bexy is a Gemini rising. In fact, my sun and Mars are conjunct her ascendant, which the sun conjunct the ascendant is like love at first sight kind of thing. And we got very, very, you know, but I wanted to take it slow emotionally because I went through a really difficult breakup right before she and I got together. So, but We did. I mean, we kind of took it. We didn't say I love you right away or anything like that, even though we do love each other. Um, you know, we only started saying that after a few months. Like with my ex-boyfriend, it happened, you know, like within 2 weeks, and that was not good. So now, Bexy, you're also having your Mars return, right? And we're both stressed about money, aren't we? Mars going through our second house really freaks us out about that. And you might feel a temporary respite in November when Mars goes into your third house. However, and we can say fucked up shit when Mars is in our third house. So just be aware that, you know, don't hurt my feelings too much. If I don't think you never really have, but, you know. I felt it long before I told you. Yeah, I know, sweetheart. I know. Anyway, but you're going to feel this money stuff probably through spring of next year. I mean, going like approaching April or whatever, you see? Approaching April or towards the end of April, which means I'm going to be feeling it probably too. So, or at least I'll be feeling it till February. February has, people say February, but that doesn't make sense to me. It's written February. And it comes from Latin, februm, right? I forget what that means, but it's Latin. Like a Dorcas Malorcas. That's not Latin. Anyway, so Jupiter's going through your first house too. And I know you've been talking about like the health kick and see, we gain weight oftentimes when Jupiter's in our first house, but we also start trying to work on our health. And Jupiter retrograde for you could indicate getting on a diet or exercise program, you see? Jupiter rules what? Your 10th house. That's lovely. And your 7th house. Oh, I should have known that off the top of my head. You see? So there's a backtracking thing going on in a relationship. I hope it's not with you and me. You know, we do have other relations, you know. But Jupiter retrograde could depress a relationship, you know. That could be a difficult circumstance. But then Venus, you're having your Venus return here very quick, October 17th. She'll go into your 7th house. That could be harmonious relations with a partner. Could be another partner, but it's probably me, you know. But Jupiter retrograde could also represent, you know, the winding down of another relationship, perhaps. So it doesn't necessarily mean that. That's just one way to read it. And then there's something coming to a close with the job situation. So a job situation that's been carrying on and feeling quite difficult, probably since March of last year, is sort of coming to a close. Or rather, you get the impetus to start doing something about it. I don't think you want to start applying for jobs or anything like that, but you may see an opportunity pop up, you know, going into 2025, right? Going into winter 2025. Now, you know, don't totally quote me on that, because you love your job as far as we know. You know, well, you don't love it, but you're good at it. And it's, you know, it's a good job. It's a good jobby. It's a good jobby, Bexy. You have a good jobby. Yes. But anyway, you see, the cool thing is Bexy and I both have 5th house suns. And we're both hypersexual. So that sort of works out for us. Now, her sun is conjunct my Saturn and my Pluto. So it's also a very close and obsessive relationship. And when Saturn is that close to the sun like that, it also represents a long-term thing. You see, a long-term commitment. But then Saturn conjunct the sun also is like a dominance thing. Like the Saturn person is a dominant person. And yes, that's sort of how this shakes up. And of course we have a Virgo moon, right? Which is kind of submissive. It can be submissive type things and submissive type people. Yeah. Excuse me. And then her Pluto's opposite my Mercury. But her Mercury's also opposite my Mercury, you know? And I do a lot of talking. I do a lot of talking. So, anyway. Um, wow, and your Mercury's on my midheaven too. So maybe you help me a little bit with this whole business thing. You got to get me on fucking Reddit, girl. Help me. Help me. Help me, Bexy. Help me, Bexy. God, my neck is killing me. Thanks for this syzygy info. I need to go. A cat's left her. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah, I have to go too. I have to go too. So I love you, Shani. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being with me when I was having my existential crisis late at night. That's wonderful that you did that. Oh, Bexy has Moon Square Venus like I do, right? It makes us paranoid in relationships. It's like there's sort of a conflict between our need for security and our need for relations, you know, our need to relate to people. It can make us shy, right, in social situations. And you might not think of me as shy, Bexy, but I sure was. Took a lot for me to come out of my shell over time, you know? So, and as soon as we fall in love with people, sometimes we get paranoid. We have codependency, right? Both of us suffered from that, didn't we? So anyway, this was all good stuff, and I hope you enjoyed it. And please tell all your friends, you know, please. I need subscribers, I need followers, I need members, and I need people on Twitch. So, but anyway, love you so much. Have a wonderful